Who remembers the BJ and Bill show all those years ago on WOLZ? Well, many have said they missed the show, and guess what? They're back. Welcome to the BJ and Bill podcast.
Welcome to BJ and Bill, the podcast, a part of the Podcast Playground Network. Please give us that 5-star review. We will so much appreciate it. You can do that wherever you subscribe, whether it be Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. As we welcome you to episode number 78.
78. Holy cow. It's really,
no.
We need to do, I mean, we got time, but we really need to think of something special for like the 100th episode or something. We really need to have a party or a couple of big time guests or something like that. I don't know. That sounds like a good plan though.
Well, speaking of parties, we had a party earlier this week. You and we met in downtown Claremont. I want to thank you for driving down.
Would you call that a party or just two old men having lunch on the patio somewhere? It was awesome. Yeah. It was awesome. I got to admit. And your little neighborhood, I know it's not you don't live right downtown, but that little part of downtown, old historic Claremont there on the lake, on Lake Mineola is just beautiful. I fell in love with it. I was like, wow.
It's awesome.
It is awesome. So we walked around, did a little, shopping and kibitzing with the locals and all of that. And then we had lunch at, what was it? Oh, the Salt Shack. Not to give them a plug because they didn't give us any free food, but
Salt Shack. Yeah. And hopefully our waitress there actually listened. She wanted to know the name.
Right.
And Bill texted her Bill got a phone number.
I got a phone number. Yeah. Of a young lady waitress at the Salt Shack. I'm not too worried about it, but yeah.
You
he said, don't be creepy or I'll block you. I said, yeah, that's not going to happen. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
So now she's been creepy with you all week. Come on, you can admit it.
I'll show you the text. I sent one text, received 0 back. So perhaps she listens, perhaps not. Well, now, but having said that, and we blew it. We blew our opportunity here because we should have gotten the name. We should have gotten her name so we could have done a shout out here on the podcast. And then I could have texted back to her to say, hey, we mentioned you on the podcast, but at least now we'll know that, I'll do it anyway without the name.
I'll say we didn't know your name, but we sent you she was very sweet. I mean, it was
terrific.
She was a great waitress, and probably by her saying, I really want to listen to your podcast was, I'm going to get a good tip because they're good. I'm going to act like I'm interested in their little stupid podcast.
That's right. I'm sure you're right. I am sure it was all just a great plan to get a good tip. And we were generous, and it worked out for everybody. That's all I'm saying.
She was a very sweet young lady. So
yes.
That was awesome. And it was good getting together with you, old man.
Thank you. Same to you, old man. It was awesome. Yeah. You can still walk. You're still upright. That's good to know.
I don't know, going up that hill when we went to the one little shopping center because we had the bad thing about this restaurant is it's right on Lake Mineola.
Yes.
And the parking lot for the actual restaurant holds about 15, 20 cars at the most.
If that, yes.
And then, parking downtown is, at least in that area down by the water, because a lot of people, as you notice, it has a nice little pathway for you to bicycle, for you to, scooter, walk your dog, whatever you want to do. So it's a big, it draws a lot of people.
Yes.
And we were there, on a Thursday afternoon. It was quite busy.
I was surprised how busy the downtown was on a regular weekday. Of course, it's kind of like quote unquote tourist season, but I get it. The restaurant was full. I mean, they were waiting. So, yeah. So, we had to walk.
So we had to go up a hill.
Up the hill.
I was glad I was still, upright after I walked up that hill. That was, to me, by the time we got to the top, I was like, okay, I'm done.
I got my workout for the day. I get you. Yeah, me too. It was fine. So, yeah, it was great fun, and we'll do it again. And, we're already thinking about getting together again in the future here. Not a bad idea. So there you go.
Whether he was blowing smoke or not, Ted Fitzgeorge, because I mentioned it, we mentioned it. There's some pictures on the Facebook page.
Right.
And Ted Fitzgeorge said, oh, man, nice you guys could get together again. I said, yeah, next time we do it, we'll have to invite you. And he said, I'll be there.
Well, that would be awesome. He's, of course, in the middle of baseball spring training now. He's already been posting like mad with that. Baseball spring training has started. And yeah. In fact, the new home, well, they've been there a couple of years. The new home of the Atlanta Braves in spring training is literally bike rideable from where I used to live in Northport, in Venice and Northport. So,
okay. I thought you were going to say Fort Myers. I was saying, what?
No.
You got another team in Fort Myers?
Yeah, no, they got with 3 already, right? With 3 twins?
No, 2.
Boston? Twins in Boston. Yeah.
Twins in Boston.
I thought they had,
They
but Boston moved out to JetBlue Park years ago. So that's the new part. I've never been to JetBlue Park.
It's a nice park. I've been there for a couple like food fest or whatever. I've never really been there I have been there for a couple games.
Cool. Very cool.
Saw the Cubs play there.
I've been to, the other 2, of course, but whatchamacallit, City of Palms Park, where Boston used to play, and then whatchamacallit, Hammond Stadium for the Twins. I actually, when Ted couldn't make it, I actually think I called one. I know I called a few Fort Myers Miracle games, and I think I might have even done one Twins game. I'm not sure, but I don't remember. So it was fun. Big fun.
Of course, I remember. Now I say I can remember. Now I can't remember the name of the park out there on what is that? State Road 7282. What is that?
You could tell me anything I wouldn't remember. What do you
out there by Wink Television?
Right.
That's where there used to be a ballpark.
Oh, yes.
And the Royals.
The Kansas City Royals played there. Yes. And we did a couple of events there. That's all right. Now I got to Google that. So yeah, but you're right.
While you're Googling it, that's also where the Senior League played, which was a short-lived league of retired baseball players. And that's, from the Major League Baseball. But
right.
But they were like, older players that had retired.
Right.
And it was a fun little league, and it lasted about 2 years. In the second season, it went under. So they just didn't have the money to keep it operating. And who knows what they were paying those players. But
I looked it up. It's Terry Park. Park.
That's it. Yep.
I remember. And I have a memory of that. You and I they were doing a game there. And maybe it was the Royals back in town, or maybe it was, I don't remember, but there was a real game there. And the place is 100 years old. I mean, it's literally like 150 years old. And you and I were on the field. This is a memory. And we were introducing the teams or introducing something, and it came time to do the national anthem, and the speakers died. So we sang the national anthem out loud with the crowd. I remember that. That was awesome.
Are you sure it was me? I think this might have been when you were a Super Q or something.
Oh, it might have been. It could have been pre-BJ.
I think it was pre-BJ. Now, I had been there before, and my job was a little bit different than what your job was.
Right.
Because the guy that owned WDCQ for a while,
right,
also owned the Sun Sox.
The Sun Sox.
That was the Senior League.
Oh, okay.
That played at Terry Park.
Okay.
And he gave me the job when I wanted it, and I did it a couple nights and had a blast doing it. I was the guy that walked around going, peanuts, popcorn, Cracker Jack, peanuts, popcorn, Cracker Jack.
You were the carnival barker.
That was fun.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, there you go. Terry Park memories there. There you go. That is terrific. It's good. Well, I hope everybody else had a good week. We had a good week. Got together for some lunch and had some fun. And now we're reminiscing about baseball since spring training is underway with that. Coming up later this morning, a special guest, which BJ will be talking about later, but that's all right. So what else is going on? What are you doing?
Last night, because the daughter's boyfriend is kind of a big corporate guy at SeaWorld.
Oh, cool.
So he got us, through the door without paying any admission charge.
Very nice.
Although we had we ate a little, we drank a little, and so we might as well paid the admission price.
Yeah, they made their money on you.
Oh yeah, believe me. I think by the time our bill for the meal and the cocktails and everything else got sorted out, we more than paid what we would pay for a day's admission for both the wife and I to go to SeaWorld.
Right. But
we had an awesome time. And what I really enjoyed too, they have like these weekend concerts going on right now because they have like a little food and wine festival or something going on.
Very
So
cool.
we got to see the Newsboys.
They didn't call me?
No.
They didn't call me for the Newsboys show. Awesome.
And I remembered some of the songs, from, Way FM, because it's a Christian group.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
But
that.
they really rocked it out. They almost surprised me.
Cool.
And the drummer was just amazing. I was like in, I used
Drummer
to be
heaven.
a drummer.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like a drummer and a showman, the way he would move his arms up and down. And
very cool.
I just sat there, was mesmerized. Yeah, thank you, Bill.
You're welcome. Yeah,
I couldn't get it out.
Very cool. Very, very cool. I'm glad. So it's a Christian band and it's the News. Oh, I see. They're coming to bring the good news. I got it.
The News
figured
Boys.
that out. Yeah.
They've been around for quite a while. So
cool. Very cool. So SeaWorld it was the other night. Awesome.
Yeah. The only thing we didn't get to see is my daughter's friend Lauren, who they don't call them shows anymore. Now they're educational programs.
Of course.
But, where they, like the animals come out and they talk about the animals, and the animals do not do tricks, but they kind of do tricks. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Because it's, educational. It's not a show where they're
doing. I see. Is that how they're
that's how they do it now. But she's with Shamu.
Cool.
But they have the Shamu Park down right now.
Oh, they do?
So we're definitely going to go back and
very good.
Going to watch, my daughter's friend do her educational thing with Shamu.
Awesome. That is so awesome. Do they still get in the water with them?
No, that's since that death, like I don't know how many years ago.
A long time ago.
They have not been able, which I remember SeaWorld from my younger days.
Me too.
They would ride them. They would, all this, the whales would dart them up into the air, like, I don't know how many feet in the air.
Yep.
One of the most awesome sights you could ever see, but nope, those days are long gone.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. Well, no, I think that I think I do feel about that's okay. I mean, it seems a little like, I don't know, what's the fancy word, exploitative for the critters and the people. It's a good, I mean, if you can do a show, fine, but I don't know. And it could be dangerous. Like you said, it's all kinds of things. So I don't know.
My view, it's, I know it's not a domestic, like they say, a dog and a cat can be.
Right.
But it's the same thing as having your dog,
trained,
do tricks and be trained. And I will tell you this, because at one time my daughter was an educator at SeaWorld, and, would be the little girl that would be out there going, whatever it was, the dolphin or the sea lions.
Right.
You would tell you different things about the sea lion or whatever, and, be able to ask questions, and things like that. But they take such good care. I mean, yes, they're in captivity, but those animals are taken care of 10 million times better than any in the wild. Sure. And a lot of times they're ones that if you would let them go in the wild now, they wouldn't see probably a week.
Well, sure, because they were born and raised at SeaWorld or in captivity or wherever they happen to be. I get it. Yeah, I do. I understand that. So it's an odd thing. It kind of is. It's an odd thing. But then again, there's a lot of odd things in this world. So, just whatever works for you, I guess. Whatever works.
Yeah, so we had a very good day.
Awesome.
But I tell you, the drinks there, they're expensive.
So SeaWorld, in other words, could probably just let people in for free, but with like a 2-drink minimum.
Yeah.
like a bar. And they know they're going to make their money that way.
Now, for the Newsboys, the up close seats, that did cost you money.
Okay.
But general admission for, just to watch the concert in the amphitheater they have there.
Right.
It was free to guests at SeaWorld.
Awesome.
Except for the real close ones. Like I said, then they had to pay a premium price for that.
It's probably how they paid for the band.
Yeah, but
it's like, all right, we're going to have 100 good seats and we're going to charge for those and you can have that.
Yeah. But it was a very good, and then of course they got all sorts of little tricks. If you want like, VIP parking, to be right up there by the gate, that costs a little extra too. So
really,
they actually, they have ways of making
Of
money.
course they do. Of course. I haven't been to any park in 5-6 years at least. Does Disney have VIP parking? I'm assuming they do. That's such a brilliant idea.
I don't know if they do or not now that I think about it. See,
why wouldn't they?
I would get it if they had it.
Right.
But I'm lucky enough to have one of those mobility scooters with
of course,
with a little sticker on my car that says,
of course,
handicap parking. And I get along because, as you said, we walked up the hill. I get around well. If I want to spend a half a day at a park and do all that walking, then I have difficulties.
Yes.
So that's why I have my little mobility scooter.
Right.
And I like to exercise. So every once in a while, the wife and I will, I'll let her be the handicapped person and ride the scooter for a little while.
Get a little extra. That's good.
While I walk, but she walks most of the day. I walk a little of the day.
I remember when my parents were both still with us and we did Disney World. Woo, that would have been 25 years ago. But even then, my mother, we had a wheelchair for her, and that also gets you to the front of the line a lot. Although I hear nowadays that they have to kind of patrol that because people kind of abuse that privilege now. That it's like, oh, we'll bring a wheelchair and we'll get to the front of the line every time or something like that. Yeah, so can't it's too crazy. Have you ever been to? I think this is the last time I was ever at a real park. I did the SeaWorld Aquatica park. Have you ever done that?
Oh yeah, we've done that a couple times. One time
that's super cool.
Yeah. Now wait a minute. Aquatic, is that where you can swim with the dolphins?
Yes. And it's like one price. They only let a fixed number of people in every day, and it's crazy expensive. I mean, it was then. It's probably much crazier expensive now. But it's everything. It's like going to a sandals resort in the Bahamas. All the food, all the drink, all the whatever you want. It's just one price. You're done. Come on in for the day.
Now I enjoyed that a lot. I think they have changed that maybe because they just found too many people were getting too wasted. Now I think there is like a drink minimum or something like that.
Right.
Well, but it's still, I think, all the food and stuff you want.
Right. And I'm not a big drinker, so it wasn't a big deal for me at the time, but I do remember having a couple of spritzers of some sort for sure.
Well,
yes.
Well, I had enough that I fell out of a hammock. That's all I remember.
That's funny. I was swapping messages. A friend of mine in one of my online marketing groups, she and her mother are visiting Mexico right now. They're down in Mexico. She's, of course, still on Wi-Fi and still communicating with all of us. But she sent a picture of her in a hammock, and I'm like, oh, I have evil memories of me trying to get into a hammock when I was younger, and the family was on a cruise in the Bahamas, and I got in and it flipped me. I mean, it was perfect. Thank God no iPhones at the time, because the pictures would have been hilarious of Bill trying to lay down in this thing and it just swinging right over and dumping him right on his face in the sand. It would have been a great picture. Thankfully, there are no pictures.
That's what happened to me, and my feet were straight up in the air.
Yeah, that probably was me too. Thankfully, it was long enough ago that I don't remember it. So I put that one out of my memory. It's like,
and of course, not only that, but then my wife, we were, swimming, where you can swim with a snorkel and see fish and everything underneath you.
Yes.
She almost drowned. So very lovely day. I go flying out of a hammock and almost kill myself. My wife almost drowns, and my daughter says, "I'll never take you to again."
I was going to ask how you almost drown while you're wearing a life vest and the water's like 4 feet deep, but never mind. That's another story for another day. So, all right. So there's our whatchamacallit park stories for the week. All good. Boy. And it's kind of been a busy week around here. I don't know. I've got a lot going on and doing a lot of the internet marketing stuff and all of that. Like I said, this friend of mine that's in Mexico, she's our team leader and all that stuff. So we do these Zoom calls. It's just getting crazy out there. It really is. So,
well, tomorrow is going to be like I'm back in radio, doing morning radio, waking up at like 4:24 o'clock in the morning.
You mentioned that.
I have to be in Tampa for a heart cath.
Oh man!
At
what time?
I have to be there at 6:30, and by the time they put me up on the lift, it'll probably be like about 10:30. And
on the lift. So you have to be there. You have to be at Tampa General at 6:30 a.m.
Yes.
Wow.
And what's really, this is, it's a wonderful hospital.
Sure.
But they have like 7 cath labs. Okay.
Right.
And I think I'm scheduled. I think my appointment is scheduled to be in the cath lab like at 10 or 10:15, 10:30.
Do they have a VIP cath lab for you?
They should, dang it.
You've paid for it.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
my insurance company paid for
Yeah.
it. I didn't pay.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, a lot of times they get emergencies.
Oh.
So, and sometimes they go, they go in and they go, oh, we need to put stents in, or we need to do some more. And they've actually done that, to me before. They've got me in the cath lab and then, okay, we need to put a stent here and a stent there, and
Wow.
so you're in there longer than they really have you scheduled for.
Okay.
So I love it when I have to be there at 5:00 in the morning and I'm scheduled to go in the cath lab at 7:30, because usually you go in the cath lab around 7:30, 8:00.
Gotcha.
Now, this time I'm scheduled for 10, 10:30.
Right.
And there's been times I've been scheduled for 10, 10:30, and they haven't rolled me down until after lunchtime.
Oh, man.
And what really sucks is you can't eat or drink.
Nothing? Not even water?
Well, you can have a little bit of water with your pills if you have pills to take.
Oh, great.
But
Wow.
that's it.
Wow.
And you're going, oh my God. And then, when they bring you back, because they have to use my groin. I don't know why. I have bad arteries in my arm, because some people, they can put it in their wrist.
Oh.
With me, they got to go, down to the groin and go up to the heart. And so when you're doing that, you have to lay down flat for 2 hours after you've had your procedure.
Wow.
So then they don't want to feed you for the next hour at least, because, they can kind of put you up a little bit after an hour.
Right.
So it's like, sometimes it's 3, 4 o'clock. It's like, I want a freaking sandwich.
Wow. All right. So there's BJ. And it's funny because we were kind of comparing. I'm not doing it, but our other friend, Miss Vicky, who was on the show, shout out to Miss Vicky Wagner, was on the show with us last week. She's actually having a football injury. She's having rotator cuff surgery or something related to that, because her shoulder is shot. And she's got to drive from her small town up in the Blue Ridge area down into the big city of Atlanta. Whew, on Wednesday morning. So tomorrow morning you're going to Tampa. Wednesday morning, sending blessings to Vicky for good, because she's got to be in Atlanta at 8:30 in the morning. And I'm like, oh my God, the heart of morning rush hour traffic of everybody going into Atlanta. Wow. I would be leaving at midnight. I'd be leaving on the night before.
I might say, let me get a hotel next to the the hospital.
Yeah. Next to the surgery center. And you've done that because Tampa General, of course, when they want you there for multiple days, they put you in a hotel or whatever they do. So yeah.
No, you put yourself in a hotel.
You put your right.
It sounds good. No.
The days of staying overnight in the hospital are done, even for VIP BJ Odom. Right.
Now, if they give me a stent and I go in later than probably noon,
right,
they usually ask me to spend the night there.
Oh, okay.
And if I
keep an eye on you,
sometimes if I have a stent even and do it early in the morning,
right,
they'll let me out around 5 or 6 o'clock. They like to watch you for a little while after they put one of those in, I guess.
Wow. Man.
Now with Miss Vicky, will they keep her overnight, or is that one day surgery?
No, I don't. I think it's just a one day thing. I really do. I think it's in and out in a like an oil change. Don't even get out of the car. I mean, it's so I'm pretty sure she's going to not stay the night, and we'll be back in Blue Ridge Wednesday evening. It's a good question. I'll ask her and I'll check in with her on that to make sure.
Yeah, because my wife had a fatty tumor taken
right
out of her, and so you had to cut her open to do it, obviously.
Ooh.
Yeah, but that was she was, and I figured we'd be there at least a couple hours after she had it done.
Right.
She was back in the, recovery and back in her room. And I was in there, she was coming out of anesthesia, which is always fun with her. She's a little wackadoo every once in a while when she first comes out of
anesthesia.
But 2 hours later, they were saying, you can get dressed and you can take her home.
You're out of here.
Now, they wouldn't let her drive. I had to drive home.
No, of course not. Yeah.
But they don't let me drive they don't really put me all the way out. I don't have anesthesia, but they give me some really happy juice. It's like the doctor could come in and tell me anything, and I'd go, "Yeah, why not do it? Yeah, do whatever you want to."
The big comet hits the planet in 2 hours. It's all over. Oh, great! Have a fun time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's gonna be fun to watch.
yeah, I know. Awesome. Well, yeah, I get it. That's good. That's good for you. Good for everybody. Well, so apparently we're talking medical procedures today, and I've been thankful. Knock on wood. It's Bill knocking on wood that hasn't been a thing for me. I've been okay. So counting my blessings, as they say.
I've been in hospitals ever since I've been a kid. It's like I said, it's like another day at the office.
For you, yes. Not everybody has that. Not everybody has that casual attitude about going to the hospital, but yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
And I hate, because I get, I get a little nervous, but I'm always seeing all these people, like I'm going in for this, or I got to go get this. I got to get a stress test. I got to get a heart cath.
Right.
I said, and I feel sorry for them, and I know they're nervous. I know they're worried, but I look at it and go, yeah.
Amateurs. Hey, you got more replacement parts than a 69 Chevy. I mean, come on.
Where was I? Somebody actually said that. Maybe it was you this week. Somebody said something about, boy, you got more parts than, I don't know, but somebody was kind of like said the same thing. Like,
oh yeah, well, it wasn't me, but it's a good line. It's a good line. So you can use that should you ever get back around to stand up, you can use that as your, I got more replacement parts.
My comedy line was always, I got more parts than a chicken McNugget.
There you go.
That was my little,
There you go.
That was kind of my opener. I'd always say, hey, good to be here. Of course, good to be anywhere. I've had a heart transplant, had a kidney transplant. I got more parts than a chicken McNugget. That was always my opening little bit.
That's a good one. That's a good opener. You got to catch their attention. I love that. I do. That's great.
Well, I'm hoping.
Yes.
I got my fingers crossed that
it's crunch time.
Yeah, that our guest will be available here.
Okay.
He is in Los Angeles. I will say that.
Wow.
I did talk to him and sent him, a little text message yesterday afternoon.
Right.
Actually, I sent one, like Friday, and then I sent one again yesterday because I told him I would. And he goes, "Yep, I'm ready to go." So it'll be 8:00 his time.
Right.
It'll be 11:00 on a Monday when we record this. So
yes,
hopefully our guest, he's like the biggest star that I know, the second biggest star that I know.
Right. We had this discussion, I think, off the air last time. But yeah, you were saying he's like a big star, but he's not quite Shaq level.
No.
Shaq is the guy.
Yeah. So he's my second most famous friend, I guess I can say.
I really need to talk to the boss, your son, and yours truly really needs to meet Shaq somewhere. I mean, I've only been writing about the guy for literally years. And every week I write something about him for the Shaq Fu Radio website. Go visit it if you like that kind of music and all that great stuff. But I've never met the man. So I got to figure that out.
I still don't know if he really knows my name, because he would always call whenever he sees me, because my son goes, he is my son. Right. He's not adopted. He's nothing like that, but he goes by Thomas is his last name.
Right. What's a radio name? We all have radio names. Yes.
Yeah. His stage name, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. You're the only guy around that I know in the business that doesn't have a radio name, but that's
well,
okay.
I do. It's Bubba James, but I didn't use it. When I first moved to Florida, I thought I was only going to be here for 6 months, maybe a year at the most.
Right.
And then move back to Indiana.
Right.
I got here and I said, hey, no way I'm going back.
I'm not leaving.
This is paradise, baby.
I'm not leaving.
So basically, yeah, I used my name just so when people came down here on vacation, they go, oh, I know that guy.
Right.
If you use an air name, like nobody knows who you are.
Right.
But when I was getting to the story, though, my son uses Thomas. So whenever I'm around Shaq, he knows me as Gentry's son, and he always calls me Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Thomas.
It's like, I'm going to go, I don't own Wendy's.
Dave Thomas. Dave's no longer with us.
I'm not BJ Thomas.
Oh, there you go. Boy, oh boy, there's so many options to play with here. You could be any part. Yeah. Do you think Shaq would know who BJ Thomas is if you asked him? I'm not sure.
He might. I don't know.
He might.
Well, hopefully, our guest will join us in just a couple moments here.
All right. So do this. Go refill your coffee. I'm going to do the same. Do whatever you need to do. And we will come back with our special guest in just a moment. Welcome back. I'm Bill Stevens. That's BJ Odom. And we have a guest who BJ will introduce in a moment. But first, let me remind you, if you'd like to get in touch, we would love to hear from you. You can email the show, bjandbillpodcast@gmail.com, or you can head over to the Facebook page by the same name, BJ and Bill Podcast. And lots of folks just adding comments and stories there. We love it. What we really love is for you to add your 5-star review wherever you listen to this podcast. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, does not matter. Stop by, leave the review. We'll love you forever. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. BJ Odom.
I love this guy. I probably first worked with him maybe 30 years ago, but I don't know. We really didn't become friends the first time, but over the years, we've become close friends. Ladies and gentlemen, you may remember him as the neighbor there in Family Ties, Skippy. My good buddy, Marc Price. Welcome to the podcast.
How you doing there, BJ?
I'm doing great, man. I'm glad you can join us.
It's been a lot of years. I just played at Side Splitters in Tampa, and it's the same building. It's the same venue that was there 35 years ago. And I hadn't played it in probably that long, so it's 30 plus years. And so when I came back, I thought I'd never played there. I didn't even understand it was that old of a club or anything. And I came back, I was like, wait a minute, I recognize this. I go, did they used to have a condo in those buildings right over there?
The first time I worked with you, it was in Fort Myers, and I don't know how long ago it was. It was probably close to 30 years. I was just kind of getting into comedy too. I only did about 5 minutes up front, but you did a little theater in downtown Fort Myers. And I remember after the show, and I don't want to get you in trouble or anything, but this was 30 years ago, so I don't think I will. But we went out to some club. We did some clubbing afterwards, and the women were just flocking to you. And I was like, hey, what am I, mince meat over here or something?
Well, I've had that feeling now since. I understand that feeling. I've been the one watching the girls look directly through you to the other younger, more eligible guy, bigger, more famous guy, better looking guy. All that. Yes, I've had that. My Skippy superpowers have waned, as you could imagine.
Skippy doesn't have the powers he used to, huh?
No, not to get into restaurants, not to get the women, nothing.
Well, that's like, our good buddy here, of course, he's part owner in the company is Shaquille O'Neal. And, every once in a while he'll go into a restaurant. And my son one time wanted to say, I'll be the big shot because, he's part of the company too. Said, I will buy the meals. It was like about 8 of them. They went to a nice steakhouse. I think the meal was close to $1,000. And my son goes, oh my God, I'm going to have to pay this. And he was getting his card out. And just as he was, the gentleman said, if you can have Shaq take a picture with me, I'll comp this meal. He said, I'll make it happen.
So funny.
There you go.
So what are you up to these days? I know you're touring. We just looked at your schedule. You are a busy, busy boy.
I don't even think all the dates are in the on the website yet. But yeah, a lot of touring. But this year is an interesting year for me because I haven't made a movie in ages. Some people remember Trick or Treat with Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons. Great soundtrack by the heavy metal band Fastway. Horror movie from the 80s. Of course, most of my work is from the 80s. And then I made some other movies, but I just made a movie again for the first time, and it's been many moons. And I play the bad guy. It's a co-starring role, not the main role, but the antagonist of sorts. It's a horror film again. It's called Witchy Ways.
Witchy Ways.
Witchy Ways. Now, in the Trick or Treat movie, it's of the late 80s when they were having, Senate hearings about the labeling of the rock albums and accusing people like Ozzy Osbourne of their music leading youngsters astray, etc. You remember that whole controversy.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what the movie taps into. It was topical at the time. So this movie, being topical of now's time, I actually get attacked by a trans ghost.
A trans, what, he's not sure if he's dead or not? What?
Exactly. A wonderful trans actress named Candace Kane, is one of the stars of this movie, and she's fabulous, just really, really funny.
Wow.
And yeah, there I am again on the well, like, you can't call it the big screen anymore, can you? Unless people have that in their living room, but that's about as big as it gets.
Streaming anymore, yeah.
Right. We'll see what platforms it ends up on.
Any idea when it might be dropping to the public?
They're editing it. They're finishing it right now. And I expect that it'll be on platforms before the year's out. I'm not sure if they'll make Halloween, because it is that, witchy horror,
right,
campy kind of thing. But we'll see if it gets to Halloween or later. But I anticipate 2024.
Awesome.
You know, you need to have your agent get a hold of. They're doing like the remake of Night Court, and they're bringing back a lot of people that were in 80s movies and 80s shows as guest stars. That'd be a good fit for you.
Well, you know that Marsha Warfield and I, who played that wonderful character Roz on Night Court, we went out on tour not all that long ago, and in fact, we were in Fort Myers together.
Yeah, I was at that show.
Yeah, and that was great. She was just beginning to kind of get back into stand-up at that point. It was such an honor to be a part of that. And then she, got her own show in Vegas and really built it up. And now she's a part of the new Night Court too. I don't know if you know that. They have her on it.
Yeah, I saw her a few weeks ago, and that's why I was thinking it'd be excellent for you to, kind of like, talk to the powers that be and say, Skippy could make an appearance, on Night Court.
That's something.
That you'd make a great fit on that show.
You're like, talk to your agent. I'm like, what agent?
Well, I was talking to you.
It's all DIY for him. It's do it yourself.
I used to be with Jay Leno's agent
Wow.
back in the day.
Wow.
And now I'm with Flo from Progressive.
Well, I got a call from you over the, like last week, and we were Zooming, and you were out in the desert. Was that where was that, in Arizona, or where were you for sure?
I still am, by the way, just so you know. I'm heading back to LA now. I'm that's what I do when I'm not working. And in this case, I went to go do a gig. But if I'm around LA to do a gig, or when I'm not doing gigs, I like to get out into preferably the mountains and the forests. But if it's wintertime, then the deserts are a lot more appealing. It turns out I'm a snowbird, really.
Well, your mother.
I'm serious.
Yeah, that's nice. I love that. I lived in Arizona for 7-8 years or whatever. Where do you go?
People mock snowbirds. Well, first of all, I go to Florida every year in the winter. My mom lives in Naples. You were just about to say that, right, PJ?
Yes, I was. And
I got to go visit her. And my sister lives on the other side. She lives in Coral Springs. And my nephews live around there, Fort Lauderdale and blah, blah, blah. And so every year I go in the winter to Florida for at least a few weeks, just like, every good Jewish man should. and retirement is imminent. It's just a matter of time, right?
There you go.
That's what's so funny is I play these places now. They're retirement communities, and they're 55 and older. And I just turned, that age. No, really, this week was my birthday, and February 23rd, I don't know when people are listening to this, but a few days ago. And I like to say now I'm 56.
56. Well, yeah. They're not, by the way, they're not retirement communities. You may want to readjust your, thinking. They're active adult communities now.
Gotcha. You don't want to use that word retirement. It makes everybody feel old.
Active adult.
But that's what appeals to me. I'm like, I can get in this place. Hold on a minute. How does that work?
I hate to say it, but we've lived in one of those now for the past 4 years or more. So yes, we are there. We go to the clubhouse and see the little shindigs that they have down there.
I'm ready. I guess I used to mock it, but now I'm ready. It's funny how that works, isn't it?
It is. It is.
50 Shades of Grey now refers to the hair on my balls. But that's why I use Just for Men and Just for Men balls, a new product. You set it down on the ground, you teabag into it.
I'm gonna go look for that. That's amazing. So
my agent set that up for me.
Perfect.
No, by the way, I have agents that help me with the road work and stuff. In fact, one's been booking me on cruises lately, which has been nice. That's the other thing, that you get older and all of a sudden it's like, hey, cruises aren't so bad.
Saw that on your website. You've got a lot of them coming up later in the year and then heading into next year too already. Yeah.
I'm not sure that there's so many coming up, but yeah, I just did a bunch. And I think the website might be confusing. You were probably looking at this year
Might have
stuff, thinking it was next year. Yeah, I got to work on the website. But does anybody know a young person that can help me with that?
With a website. Yeah, really. That's it. Yeah. I tell people I'm like the oldest living geek you'll ever meet. So I do some of that stuff from business clients that I have too. I was curious, unless you had something to ask him, BJ.
No.
Okay. I was curious because, I mean, needless to say, since, you've been doing this for many moons, times have changed a little bit. And I'm wondering if I'm just curious to hear your commentary on like what you do, what you can do, do you censor yourself at all? Do you think about, is this appropriate? I mean, is there any of that going on in your mind or no?
You have to these days, right? It's just a different world. But I don't subscribe to the policy that comedy should be woke. That's laughable in my opinion. And I definitely come from an era where it was just entrenched in our brains. BJ can back me on this, that free speech and any topic is on the table. I remember I had a bit once all about burials and stuff. Things that aren't supposed to be funny can be funny, and there shouldn't be any rules about what's But that being said, as far as straight up racist comments and things, there's a line, and you have to decide where the line is. I always thought the line was funny, but these days the audiences don't agree with that, so you do have to pick and choose carefully. I might do a joke or two that are over the line and then do jokes about that, like accepting from the audience their newfound unacceptance with talking and bringing up, you can't cancel me, for instance. I threaten them, go ahead, cancel me. You can't cancel me. I was already canceled. The show was canceled in 1990. You can't cancel somebody twice. Right. It's like double jeopardy on a murder charge.
Right.
Now, see, here's one thing that you've got too. And I started comedy like 35 years ago when I first got into it. Now, your father was a comedian, so you were brought into the business, and it has really changed from your father's day to today. And the things some of these young comics talk about, I have an open mind, and I think.
Well, now wait a minute. Wait a minute. Have you forgotten about the Friars Club roasts? Have you forgotten about the late shows? I don't think people realize, because they look back at that era and they see, they remember the Ed Sullivan Show and everybody doing their TV material and stuff. But those Friars Club roasts were dirtier than anything that Sam Kinison ever said.
Yeah,
I'm serious.
No,
they were pretty
absolutely right. I remember some of those old ones. Yeah, they were brutal. But they were hilarious too. I mean, they were brutally hilarious. If that's
my dad was on the dais for those things. He was friends with George Burns and stuff like that. And he was on the George Burns Friars Club roast. But that was and he did a joke. Recently, somebody sent me a book that had it quoted and everything, and it had it. I was trying to picture my dad telling the joke, and it was That's so awesome. Dirty.
That's awesome.
And but the thing is, though, those guys, actually knew each other and actually loved each other. And so they could say anything, and any insult or any horrible joke that they would do was, in fact, picking on them. And it was with love. And at the end, they'd say something, generally truly emotional, or, about the impact that other person's had on their life and that kind of thing. And it was genuine. And that's the difference. I watch those Comedy Central roasts now, so don't get me wrong. They're entertaining, so don't get me wrong.
Right.
But a lot of the people on the dais don't even know the celebrities. They've never even met them before. And they hit them so hard. And there's no genuine love there. It's just a cold showbiz thing, And so that's what's missing from those specials that they used to have on the original Friars roasts. But But yeah, they were dirty back in those days too. Oh yeah.
They were dirty and but they weren't. I guess the difference, what I see anyway, at least I feel anyway, in the clubs 30 years ago, they were dirty, but now, and maybe it's just I'm getting old, now they're vulgar though.
Ah, well, all right, yeah.
Am I getting old, Skippy or Mark?
I don't know. I guess it all depends on who. That's the thing. There's so many comedians now that it's not fair to say they're not funny, because that's not fair, because there's more funny comedians now than ever before in history. That's just a statistical reality.
Right.
And but of course there's way more unfunny ones than ever before too. And so you've got this weird, the whole open mic phenomenon and all. It's like it's just so yeah, my dad would roll over if he realized, because when he started, and I don't even remember, I'm talking, when I talk about how dirty they were and stuff in the Late Show, or I know a little bit about before my time about the Friars Club roast and stuff because of my dad. But or even the ones I saw. I remember going to a Friars Club roast. My dad was on the dais for Ed McMahon, and Johnny Carson, called him a 300-pound tub of shit. And it was such a thrill for me to watch that. So I got to see some of it too. But it's how do I explain it? Before my time, I wouldn't really, back in the old days. I don't know when it became acceptable to get as the way they do now.
Right. Yeah, because like I said, it's
vulgar
really
was never welcome. Vulgar, although some of those jokes at the Friars Club are vulgar. They are.
Right. And I think, like you mentioned, there's so many. The business of comedy, if you want to call it that, has gotten so big or whatever that I feel that the people, the comedians, feel like they have to do more and more and more they're ratcheting up the level of crazy, stupid, wacky, insulting, vulgar stuff just to get noticed.
There were all men shows back in those days too. We got to remember that gave them a certain license to say anything.
Right.
Imagine that, a time when the women weren't even allowed. I remember that was a big deal. Yeah, I was there in the 70s. That was my era when I was a little kid, hanging out at the Friars Club and stuff, when they had when that changed over.
Right.
Now, your mother was in showbiz too there for a while before and you can give the story too, because she changed occupations, obviously.
She was a singer, and she played in Las Vegas for, had a contract for a whole year at the Desert Inn and stuff like that. She did all kinds of stuff, toured everywhere, had recorded records, and, did her thing. And that's how she met my dad. It wasn't uncommon for the singer and the comedian to be on the bill together. In fact, that was almost always the way it was. There was never more than one comic in my dad's era. The whole comedy club notion of either three comics or, in the big cities, 800 comics a night is something that was really born out of the Improv and Catch a Rising Star and all that in the Comedy Store.
Mm-hmm. Then your mother became which is kind of funny in the entertainment industry, maybe, but she went on to be a cop.
She hated showbiz so much that she'd rather have the mafia shooting at her.
Wow.
She would go undercover and stuff. My mom did a lot of bullshit. She was she worked for the prosecutor's office and everything like that. And she was
where was that, by the way? Where did she do that work?
On the East Coast.
Okay.
But wow. Yeah, she did a lot of dangerous shit, and she just that's just how much she hated agents and managers and bookers. And it was a different era too, as far as women goes. They didn't get a lot of respect. It wasn't #Me Too. It was #Show Us Your Hoo-Hoo. It was the Mad Men generation, and that really got to her, it really did. And so she wanted something stable, and a lot of it was for me. She went to school and took good care of me. She went to school after I was born to become a police officer. She had to go through all the training and stuff, the police academy and all that crazy stuff that's very difficult for a woman. She was very strong, real badass.
Wow, that's awesome.
Now she wore a bulletproof bra.
A story I've never really asked you, and we've never really discussed. how did you get your, obviously, you came from an entertainment family, but how did you get your break? And I would say that is your break to be on, Family Ties, and, some big stars came out of
my
that
mom
show.
had it all mapped out for me, and sometimes I say to myself, I should have listened to my mother. Um, which is not a bad idea, kids. If you're listening, always listen to your mother. And the flip side of that, of course, never listen to your father. But I just was all about showbiz, and part of it was that she hated showbiz, and she grew to hate my dad. She hated my dad, and I love my dad. I love show business, and so they got divorced. And when they got divorced, I had the option of staying in New Jersey and going to Cornell, and having I'd be super successful today if I just followed my mother's plan and strategy for me. And but I didn't. I had the allure was too strong. Could you blame me? I had that
No.
option. I had that option. Do your homework. Have a beautiful 10-speed bike. Go to the go to the parties and enjoy life, and
Right.
and get your degree and blah blah blah. And
Right.
instead, it was there was Hollywood and hanging out at the Comedy Store. There was a Westwood Comedy Store not far from where my dad lived with his um she went on to become my stepmom, but at that point it was boyfriend and girlfriend. So it was his girlfriend. They lived together, and I moved out with them. And their apartment was walking distance. I mean, I'm not kidding if I told you it was like 20 blocks from the Westwood Comedy Store. And the Westwood Comedy Store was something that was put together in probably the late 70s, early 80s. And it was the concept was that kids from UCLA could go there. That's where we lived, near UCLA. Mm-hmm. And so in order for college kids to get in, they didn't have a liquor license. So the way they set it up was they serve food, and they serve beer and wine, and you could get in at any age. It was like a restaurant.
Okay.
There was no rule that you had to be 21 to get in. And so at 14 years old, I started hanging out at the Comedy Store, and met the comics. And okay, so before that, I'd already gotten on TV. It's a weird thing, but when I met the comics and stuff, I already had been on Family Ties. So there was some interest in meeting me, and my dad's history and stuff everybody was curious.
Yeah, because how did you get on? I mean, obviously you auditioned, but how did that process work?
I came out to
then?
visit before I actually moved out. I came out to visit my dad, and we went together to the Comedy Store. My dad was very influential for me for comedy. He used to take me to see great comedians and go to a lot of trouble too, because he'd have a show and he'd drop me off and go do his show, pick me up, and then we go to his late show, and in the Catskills, And so he would take me to see Robert Klein, old timers like Jackie Mason.
Wow.
Just amazing shows. Yeah. And he would and so he took me to his friend who played the grumpy dad on Laverne and Shirley, and his name was Phil Foster. And anybody that remembers Laverne and Shirley remembers the grumpy dad, Mr. DeFazio. Mm-hmm. And but he was actually a sweetheart guy, and he was an old-time comedian. People don't realize that too. He came from that, he did stand up on Ed Sullivan and stuff like that. And so he was friends with my dad. So he kind of took me under his wing like a nephew, although he's famous for having started a lot of bigger careers than mine. He really did help people like Tom Hanks and all kinds of people. But he helped me. He brought me in to watch them make Laverne and Shirley. So he saw I was just blown away, and I was. There they were trying to make the bit funny and working on the physical stuff. How do we do this? And I'll lift you. And then I watched them working on it. And having been a huge fan of the show, I'm a little kid. It's the 70s or whatever, late 70s. It's just a mind-blowing experience, and oh my God, there's Fonzie, that kind of thing. And so he said, well, do you want to hang out here all week? Because after the one day, he saw I was just too enthralled. And I said, yeah, I do. He said, all right, you can go anywhere on the lot all week. And if anybody asks you, you tell them you're Phil Foster's nephew to leave you alone. And I did, man. And I went, and they were doing Bosom Buddies at that moment. And I met Tom Hanks and stuff, and who came over. He was virtually unknown to me. I didn't know who he was, but he did shtick and stuff because he saw a little kid watching them shoot, and Mork and Mindy, and the special effects. And, there was I get confused sometimes about what exactly was there. I know Happy Days was there. That was a big one. And I got to see all that and became comfortable with the process, somewhat comfortable over the course of a week of, what it takes to make a sitcom. And Family Ties was shot at the same lot at Paramount Studios, the same, like 2 studios over from where the studios were, maybe one of the very same studios, maybe exactly where they had done Bosom Buddies or something, And so when I auditioned for Family Ties, it was very comfortable for me, and it gave me a real edge. And even though we didn't know, or my dad didn't really know anybody from Family Ties, it was just, I had that experience to help.
Absolutely. So you got it from an audition then?
I got it I came in and I auditioned. Yeah. Okay. So I had been on, I came in and I auditioned. And it was just a one-time only role. And I came in, I did the role, and then they offered me a second time. And I remember I was so blown away. They invited me back, and it was so cool. And then the network, I had gone on the Merv Griffin show as a stand-up comedian. And I was because that's another part of what I was doing back then, is I would steal stage time at the Westwood Comedy Store and do stand-up as a young teenager. Now that's so common. We see so many young teenagers on the internet and stuff doing stand-up. But at the time, it was like, oh, really? There's like only been 3 teenage comedians before you, that kind of thing. There were some, young teenage. There were a lot of guys, Jim Carrey and all that stuff, that were so young when they showed up. And so anyway, that was that. I had done the stand-up on the Merv Griffin show, and they invited me in for NBC to meet them. And then NBC kind of prodded Family Ties to go ahead and up the ante with me a little bit and make it more of a contracted regular kind of, they call it recurring regular, which I thought until maybe 10 months ago that was reoccurring regular. I never even understood it was a different word. I didn't spend much time at the school on the set.
Now Family Ties, I don't know, is there a streaming service or something that still plays today? Or I know obviously somewhere it's playing.
Yeah, they got Pluto and different channels and things, and it's interesting. It doesn't play as much as like Seinfeld and stuff like that, but it's an 80s time capsule. It definitely captures the 80s. There's no question about it. You watch that show, and every episode, the hairstyles, the references, the music, all that stuff, it's very
right.
And in fact, it went from 82 to 90. It was the 80s.
Oh wow.
So how many seasons were you a regular then?
So 1 and 2, I did a few episodes, and then I guess 3 through 7, they made me the recurring regular.
Because I remember seeing you a lot during watching that program.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I lucked out. I had a lot of my biggest episodes at the height of its success, which had so much to do with. And thank you, Bill Cosby, by the way, for turning into America's Predator after being America's Dad. Making it difficult for me anywhere. Now I'm instantly suspect, right? Oh, what's his depravity? I bet you Skippy inappropriately touches puppies.
Hey, now, do you get any royalties from any of those airplays that still play today? Or
yeah, I don't want to brag, but because it's not
come
crazy.
on, brag.
It's not crazy amounts of money either. It's just a little bit every once in a while, but it's something, and nobody can complain about that. Imagine if one of the comedy clubs we played at in 1987 still somehow paid us even anything. They didn't even pay us the first time.
Right. That'd be awesome. Yeah, still send you money. Great.
So, but it dwindles down. They don't send the truck to drop off the cash anymore now. It comes in the regular, in the form of a small check. Sometimes the checks are so small you wonder, is it worth it for them to even send it? It's like, $1.05 or something. You're like, wait a second, the stamp is 80 cents.
Now let's see if I can get some nitty gritty out of you. Now it's well known that on the Brady Bunch, there was some hanky panky going on during, on the set. How about Family Ties?
Well, besides me and Meredith Baxter Burney, of course. Uh, no, there was just dreams of it on my part because I was so in love with the girl that played Mallory, Justine Bateman. That was real. I don't think America ever questioned if I really was enamored.
Oh, so you were then really? I know that was the going joke on the show, but you know, I know we've talked about it before, but now I'm getting a whole new, aspect of it. So you were actually would have if the opportunity would have arose.
No, you don't understand. I was a couple of years, just a couple. I don't want to make it out like she's so much older than me, but I'm just like a couple of years younger than her. And you got to remember, when you're 14 and she's 16 and she's the hot ingenue and I'm the nerd, I didn't have a chance.
Yeah, but you were playing a nerd. You weren't a nerd, were you?
I on that set, I was the nerd.
Awesome. That's awesome.
I tell you, you've had an awesome life, my friend. You really have, and I love talking.
I can't
to
complain.
you.
I can't complain, but like the Joe Walsh song says, sometimes I still do.
Life's been good
But
so far.
but it's definitely great, and I do enjoy the traveling around to the beautiful places and stuff. One of my gigs just took me to St. Thomas, and I was able to hang out in St. Thomas for a few days, and I go discover. I'm a big go out into a little further than most tourists do, and find some really beautiful stuff. That's my thing. And so St. Thomas, no different. I went to the other side of the island. I went to a beach that a lot of people don't know about. Had to hike to get to it, and it was magnificent. It was like a scene from Castaway or something. There was nobody at this beautiful beach.
Nice.
Well,
That was the highlight of this year so far.
That's good.
Let's see, last year, what would be? There were so many highlights. Oregon and Washington State are some of my favorites, and I'm going back there again this year. I go every year. That's some of the most beautiful stuff there is.
And are you posting these adventures on your social media stuff? Can we look you up to find your latest visits?
You can maybe some photos. I don't do the full on YouTube and Facebook reels and things.
Yeah.
I should, of course. Everyone else does, But hey, the people that call me to be on podcasts are still on the radio.
They're
audio only.
I know.
Like to.
But see, I'm so old anymore. I'm retired from everything. In fact, I did my very last show before COVID hit. That was on the leap year, which was February 29th. And my last show was at Porky's Comedy Club. And you, Marc Price, know who the headliner was the last night I worked the stage.
That is amazing, because that was the last night any of us worked before COVID took over. Yeah. It was really right after that. It was about a week later that they closed the NBA. Remember that there was that one day where everybody
in the middle of the game, of the freaking game, they shut it down.
Everybody was like, "Oh shite, this is serious now."
Yep.
But interesting story. My girlfriend got a text. A audio text. No, it wasn't an audio text. Please forgive me. It was a message. It was an audio message on her cell phone, and it said, it was like to somebody else. It was like, "Hi Tracy, this is my niece, and you know how Bob works at the State Department? Well, something is going down, and I don't even know how to explain it, but go out and get supplies for at least 2 weeks, if not more, maybe even 4 weeks. Get a lot of supplies, because they're going to close everything down. Everybody's going to be stuck in their house." And I swear to God, she laid it all out in this message. This came in like January.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. And we didn't know what to make of it, of course, at that moment. There was no COVID. We didn't know. And so we thought, I was thinking, oh, it's some sort of like somebody put out a mass thing to create a panic or something. I don't know what it was. I thought maybe somebody viciously had this recorded message that was just going to everybody, randomly. But in the end, it turned out it really was just a wrong number. And
wow.
She knew exactly what she was. The State Department people knew.
Wow.
What a shock.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a shock. At this point, we know people move
right.
stocks.
Right.
People made a lot of money at that point,
Right. You could have done nothing but buy toilet paper and then resold it for $100 the next. Yeah.
What about stock and hand sanitizer?
Absolutely.
The problem is us transplant patients. I have a heart and a kidney transplant. We were using, hand sanitizer all along because we have weak immune systems. Now it's like, heck, everybody's trying to do what I've been doing for the last 10 years. What's going on here?
Well.
Now they have to light your hands on fire.
That's pretty much, yeah. Dunk them in gasoline. All right, boys.
Always a pleasure talking with you, Skippy. Marc Price from Family Ties and, of course, comedy clubs across America. Good friend. I just always enjoy talking to you and always enjoy spending time with you. So I appreciate so much for you coming on the podcast.
Thank you guys so much. If anybody wants to visit or see what I'm up to, ijoke.com, ijoke.com takes you to my site. And there's a calendar and, little videos of the show and all that kind of stuff.
Next time you're in Florida, let's get together, buddy.
I look forward to that. That might be sooner than later. We'll let you know if my ship comes in. And then I understand I'm going back
whatever. All good.
In October too. I think I'm coming back in October too. So and then every season, of course, because that's the law.
That's the law.
That's the law. Ladies
and gentlemen. Snowbird law.
There you go. Marc Price, I guess this week we appreciate the heck out of that. It's been awesome.
Here, the last thing I'll say. Okay, here, I'm grabbing
Go for it.
I live in LA and I'm 56 now, which when you live in LA and you're in your 50s, you're a dinosaur. And I love Florida because I go there and boom, spring chicken.
That's it.
Look how he walks to the car and back. So svelte.
No walker, no wheelchair, no scooter like somebody else on this podcast.
All right. So I have a scooter.
You're a rascal. You always were.
Ladies and gentlemen, have a great week. We appreciate it. We appreciate our guest, Marc Price, and we will see you again next week. And until then, it's just up to BJ Odom to say,
see ya.